So my lesson plan is called 5th grade story analysis lesson, and basically here's the overview. So the students will just choose a story to read and then make a Flipgrid video using their iPads to summarize it. And the things that we're focusing on in the summary are finding a theme, comparing and contrasting two characters, and then using quotes from the book to support their whatever claims they make. So the standards that those cover are quoting accurately from a text when explaining what the text says and drawing inferences from it, determining a theme of a story, drama, or poem from details in the text, and then comparing and contrasting two or more characters, settings, or events. So that's kind of what it covers, and so I'll kind of go down to the procedures because that will make a little more sense. So what will happen is I'll kind of explain that we're going to do a new activity. I'll have all the students just sit in their seats and kind of face the front. And then I will, to present and explain the activity, I will, like before the class, create my own Flipgrid video to explain what the activity is. And then I'll play that for the students, and that will kind of serve as like my hook or like engagement piece right at the beginning, because hopefully it will be cool for them to see a completed Flipgrid and to see what their final product will look like, and then just also give them a better idea of what they'll be doing in the activity. So I'll show them that video, and then I'll go to Flipgrid on the smartboard and explain the process of how I made it, how they'll make it, what the steps are, and then throughout that process for each step I'll ask the students, like for example, like I'll explain how to initially create the video, and then I'll ask the students, where do you click on the screen to start your video, just to check for their understanding. And then after I explain how to make the actual Flipgrid, I'll go into explaining the story aspect and what they'll actually be making the video about. So the students are all going to choose a different book from the fiction, like a fiction story. And the books that they'll be reading are not necessarily going to be at a 5th grade level. And the only reason I did that is because I wanted to have enough time for them to read the book in class and then still make their video on it. And obviously probably 5th graders are going to be reading chapter books, but the focus of the activity isn't to see their reading level, but it's to see how they can make inferences and analyze the text. So it's just going to be a fiction story that doesn't have chapters. They can read it quickly, but what they're actually being assessed on is how well they can draw a theme from the story and then look at two of the characters and compare and contrast them. So that's kind of what I'll explain, and they'll have 20 minutes to read and take notes on their book, and then about 10 or 15 minutes to actually make their video. And so then also, before I start having them do anything for the lesson, I would go over a poster of what the guidelines are for how to be a good digital citizen. And throughout that, the 3 guidelines are be responsible, be curious, and be respectful. So I'll kind of explain all 3 of those qualities, and then as I go through it, ask the students, what's an example of how you could be responsible? What's an example of how you could be respectful? And just have them say that to make sure that they understand what I am asking of them. So then for the guided practice, we're kind of going to go into what they're looking for in the text. So to begin, we would define compare, contrast, and theme and give some examples of those. And for fifth graders, I would expect them to know what compare and contrast mean. I think theme is a little more abstract and probably a newer concept, so that we might go over a little bit more. And I would give some of my own examples, such as like your story could have a theme of teamwork if the characters in the story are working together to solve a problem. And you could find examples from the text to support that and show why you think that teamwork is a theme throughout the story. So I'd give them some examples for that, but I would also expect that the students would be participating and giving their own examples as well. And then I would pull up the rubric on the smartboard and go through that with them so they know how they're being graded and how much of the information they're expected. So we'll go down to that. So yeah, there's 4 different categories: theme, character comparison, quotes, and then the video. So for the theme, to get 2 points, which is obviously the most, the student identifies a clear theme throughout the story and provides 3 examples from the story that demonstrate this theme. So that is what I would expect, that they would have 3 examples to support what the theme is. And then for character comparison, to get all of the points, the student provides 3 examples to compare 2 characters from the story and 3 examples to contrast 2 characters. These examples are clearly explained and the definitions are thorough, using evidence from the story to support their claims. For quotes, I just expect that the students use 2 or more quotes from the book to support their ideas. And then for the video, I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to grade the quality of this, because it's a student's first time doing it, but basically just what I said is that the video is clear and the student can be easily heard and understood. And I'll kind of go back to that in a second, but the reason that I ultimately decided to grade it is because part of the instructions, and I'll get to that later, but part of the instructions is that they rewatch their video and listen and make sure that they can understand it. So the grading piece is kind of just to make sure that they actually were watching back their video and making sure that they did it right. And if they didn't, they are expected to ask questions and ask for help. So kind of just holding them accountable for that. So then after I describe all of that, we would go on to independent practice. I would dismiss the students by row to go pick out a book and tell them that it should take them about 20 minutes to read and take notes, and just look for examples in the story. And I would I would leave it up to them how they wanted to go about taking notes, but I wouldn't necessarily expect that they wrote a script for their video, but if they wanted to, I would accept that. But just at least have their talking points written down so that they could have a concise video and not kind of just be rambling and forgetting what they were going to say. So that's kind of what I would expect from the notes, but those obviously aren't graded at all, so it's kind of just whatever will help the student. And then I would say that once they're finished with their notes and finished reading their story, they can go get an iPad, whether it's been 20 minutes or not, and start recording. iPad and headphones, obviously, so everyone's not getting confused. And I would be keeping track of the time and just letting the students know when the 20 minutes is up. You should probably be moving on to the next step, and all of those steps would be written on the board so that students know what they're supposed to do and they don't have to keep asking. And then once students kind of started working on their videos, I would want to be walking around the classroom and want to make sure that students are staying on task and not doing other things with iPads, and 2, just to make sure that since this is an introductory lesson for using Flipgrid, that they're not confused, that they're figuring everything out, and just offer help wherever needed. So then after about 10 to 15 minutes, I would check back in and see if anyone needs more time. And then once everyone's done, I would pull back up Flipgrid on the Smartboard and show them just how to leave a reply on someone else's video, which is really simple, so it wouldn't take long to explain that. And then I would have each of the students go onto the class page and ask them to watch some of their classmates' videos and leave a response on at least 3 of their peers' videos. And I think this is something that the kids would really enjoy, because especially, I mean, elementary schoolers, and if it's their first time like making videos like this, I think it would be really fun for them to see what other people did, and also to just get ideas of, oh, this person did this or found this in their story, and kind of think about things that they could look for next time they do a similar activity. So that is kind of the end of the lesson. Then that we looked at the rubric for the assessment. So kind of the next steps, I mean, analyzing text and looking at themes and character development, and comparing and contrasting are something that students will continue to do throughout their school career. And so this is kind of a good thing just to get started on that and get them thinking about it. And also just Flipgrid, as technology goes, is really not too difficult to use. So I think it's kind of a good tool to have them start getting more comfortable using technology in the classroom and as a way to share information. And potentially throughout the school year, I could use that as an option for presentation if students wanted to do that instead of writing a paper, or instead of making a PowerPoint, or something like that. Once they got comfortable, I could use that as kind of another creative outlet for them. And then just ways to engage the students. I think just the fact that it's a new and a fun tool is really engaging, and the fact that they get to watch each other's videos is really fun, and learn from each other. And the other thing that I think would be beneficial in this lesson was that I let all the students choose their own book. And especially since they probably don't really read younger books anymore, they could maybe choose one that they really liked when they were younger, stuff like that. So I think just giving them more choice is engaging. And I think the fact that we made sure to go over the classroom expectations and the technology guidelines just reiterates what is expected of them. And I mean, if they're in 5th grade, they have probably heard that a lot of times throughout school, and but just giving a reminder is always really helpful. So that's kind of the gist of it. Yeah, I think that just making sure that students understand exactly what's expected of them and what the assignment entails. This would be a really fun way to learn kind of the beginnings of how to analyze different texts in kind of a fun way.